Welcome to the Venture Xperience podcast, featuring interviews with up-and-coming entrepreneurs and business leaders. Join our host as we peel behind the curtain into the motivations, tools, and strategies used by successful professionals. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Venture Xperience podcast. We have a very special edition today. It's our Veterans Day edition of our Venture Xperience podcast. And I have with me one of our franchisees who's actually opening up space in San Antonio here within the next month. And we're very, very excited because he's also a veteran of the Navy. And I want to introduce him all to our audience and let him share a little bit more about his background and the story, because it's very, very exciting stuff. Jim, welcome. How are you, sir?
Good, Ruben. How are you doing this morning?
Oh, just peachy as always. Pleasure to see you, and we have you, calling in remote from San Antonio. Before we get into a little bit of your background, tell us how the space is coming along.
You know, the space is finally all coming together, so it's kind of interesting. We have people from HVAC, so working in the ceiling, to we have the floor being laid right now. So we have it from stem to stern, essentially, as we'd say in the Navy. So it's coming along. A lot of people working up there, working really, really hard. We've got great subcontractors. We're getting a lot of support from the local community and that type of thing as well. But really interested in seeing us getting open.
That's awesome. It's awesome. I'm excited to see the finished product. I've seen it as a construction site, so I look forward to seeing it here within the next month to see the space. I'm sure you do.
Seeing it completely demoed and now seeing where it is and then knowing where it's going to be very, very shortly. It's just been an amazing process.
Exciting. Well, let's take a step back before we get too much into your new space that we're all excited about. Tell us a little bit about kind of your journey. We had talked briefly, and you had shared, when I was looking to definitely interview some veterans for this podcast edition. You shared a little bit about your story as a naval aviator, and I want you to share a little bit of background about yourself and kind of what led you to joining the military. And you also had to correct me, because when you first said, I was like, oh, weren't you like a Navy pilot? And you're like, no, it's not. We don't call them pilots in the Navy. We're aviators, and there's some differences there. So share a little bit about that for me.
Sure. So I guess my experience is one that I guess my military service was sort of preordained. Much of my family has served in the military in this country from the War of Independence and the Civil War to, here in Texas, we had people that fought and died at the Alamo and at Goliad. So my grandfather was in the military, had served in World War I. My father had served in World War II, in the Korean War, and in Vietnam. So it was one of those things where I'd always been around it. And for myself, I really wanted a challenge. And one of the most challenging places you can go in the military is to become a naval aviator. So, and actually be able to fly off of aircraft carriers.
And now, can you explain to the audience the difference between, an Air Force pilot and a Navy aviator?
I'll give it up to my Air Force brothers. I mean, they're absolutely brilliant, and they do great missions. And, we love them, and we very, very often work together along with Marine aviators and stuff as well. But, there are some big differences. So the biggest difference is, of course, that we have these little floating boats called aircraft carriers. And so the typical runway that you land on, much like you do in a civilian airliner, it's 10, 12,000 feet long. It's 300 feet wide. You've got a lot of space, and you come in and you gently place your aircraft down and roll out. And it's a very nice, controlled, gentle type of operation. The ships are a little bit different. So we've got a ship that's all of 1,000 feet long. And we only land in the last 300 feet of that. We have 4 wires that are stretched across the back of that boat, and we have to land with this thing bouncing up and down, pitching, heaving. It's moving at the same time, and you have to land 3 feet either side of the center line of the ship, or you're going to hit other planes that are stored ready to go out on their next flight. So it's a little more precise. And of course, you land, you basically just slam the aircraft down on the back of the boat. And as soon as you do, you jam excel the throttle so that hopefully if you catch the wire, you're stopping. If you bounce and the tail hook misses one of the wires, then you go flying back off again and come back around and get to try to do it again.
Wow. So a lot of variables there to factor in.
It's a wee different.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Now, explain to us, so, maybe one of the most challenging experiences that you had in the military, and then also one of the most rewarding experiences that you had as your time in the military.
Oh my gosh. I think the challenging things were going to some of the places where I can remember being in Somalia when we were doing the UN rescue for all of the people that had the famine there in Somalia. And, these people had very, very little. You fly over Mogadishu and there were no roofs on the buildings because they had tin roofs and everybody had taken the tin off to sell it on the black market. There wasn't any plumbing anymore because they pulled up all the pipes to sell it on the black market. There was no wire in any of the homes or telephone lines because they pulled all the wire out and stuff to sell on the black market and to get funds as best they could. So they literally had nothing. And of course, we're just there to try to provide food for these folks. And then you had warlords whose basic mission was to try to get the food from us so that they could sell it to the people as opposed to us giving it to the people. So that's why we had a lot of the conflict over there. So that was not very much fun. The challenge is, we're trying to help people and you have other people who are basically evil trying to help themselves as opposed to helping the people. So on the other hand, I can remember doing things in the middle of Kenya. So we had decided to go in, or we'd offered to go into Kenya to some of the areas that were very, very far away from any cities and where people didn't have any medical or dental assistance. And so we went into a little place called Kapini, Kenya. And at the time, it was literally the mud huts that you might have seen in the movies and that type of thing. And, so it was like the circus coming to town because we have all these helicopters that fly in and, we're bringing medical and dental aid. People were literally walking for 100 miles to come in and receive some of that aid. And everybody was seen that would come in. We gave them all sort of a health packet to sort of go away with. So they would go away with all sorts of supplies and those type of things. But to see those people who, in our mind, from Western cultures saying, gee whiz, these people literally have nothing. They're living a subsistence life. And you saw how well adapted they were to their environment, how happy everybody was. The kids are all playing and smiling. Everybody has a place in their society. And you wonder, well, maybe all the things that we have are not that necessary, but wonderful, wonderful people and a wonderful opportunity to see, different culture.
Yeah, no, I bet an experience like that really kind of puts things in perspective. Sometimes we, here in America, we kind of distract ourselves with all this extra stuff, and it kind of puts context to that saying "first world problems."
Exactly,
because elsewhere in the world, they're fighting to find their next meal for the day, and here we are bickering with each other over stuff that is minuscule when you look at the big picture of what the world's dealing with. So now that's great. And so now give us a little bit of insight into maybe some stuff that you learned in the military that have helped you as you worked your way out of the military and into your professional career. Are there any kind of business skills or anything that you learned in the military that now you use when you go about in your professional life?
I think there are probably a lot of things. And I think when people come out of the military life, they bring a lot of skills with them. So I think we see a lot of companies today looking for people with military background because they all know how to work, they all know how to be dedicated to a mission. I think that one of the big things is that you learn from other people. You learn how to learn from other people because we can't all do it ourselves. And I think that's one of the things that you pick up on. And you realize that teamwork is a very important aspect of anything that you want to do. I think you learn to appreciate your friends. I think you learn to appreciate your coworkers. I think you learn to appreciate diversity because we have people from all different walks of life. We all are dedicated to the same mission. And, where you came from, or, what your last name is, or the color of your skin, or, your national origin. None of those things really matter. They're all great people working towards a common goal and being able to accomplish that goal. I think being able to come up with what those goal setting procedures are, and then be able to actually put those things into practice and look at the fact that results matter. So all of those things came out of the military for me.
Yeah, no, a lot of really great like soft skills that are sometimes missed now with employers looking for new employees. So that's a lot of great stuff and reasons why you should, as an employer, be looking at veterans who can be a great addition to your team. Give us a little insight into any advice that you would give to a veteran that is making that transition out of the service to professional career, and anything that you would maybe recommend for them, any resources that maybe helped you, or any stuff that you would want them to keep in mind as they make that transition.
I think there's a couple of things that you can rely upon. One, you've learned how to be persistent in the military. So persistence matters. So, when you're looking for a new job, or those type of things, or you're trying to get back into your the life that, our civilian life, persistence matters. It's kind of a numbers game. So as long as you're persistent, you're dedicated, and continue trying, then you'll be successful. I think a lot of people, whether it be veterans or anybody else, oftentimes, they quit right before they achieve their goal. And so I think that persistence is really important. I think that for veterans coming out of the military, one of the things that you can rely on is a huge network of veterans that are out there. So, I applaud you for doing this with Venture X today, because it allows some of the veterans to know that, hey, we've got veterans that are in our organization, and we're all here to help. Everybody understands who you are, what you've done, the sacrifices that you have made, your family has made. And, we're certainly willing to give you a hand back up and help you integrate back in. And a lot of times the challenge for us is to learn a different language, or get back to a civilian language, because we really do talk a little bit differently. We have different values. So, as we show up at 7 o'clock ready to go, our coworkers may not be there without those first cups of coffee, and it may be a little bit later before they show up. So, there are some differences culturally that we have to get back into.
Yeah, I see that. But you hit on a great thing there, the persistence, or that inner drive that you get from a veteran has, that really does help them, and that's something that can't really be taught. I can teach anyone on how to sell co-working space or flexible office space, but I can't give them that inner fire that drives them to want to succeed in life. So that's a great thing. Now you transitioned out of the service to the civilian life. Give us a little bit about what you struggled with as far as maybe finding the right fit for you employment wise, and then you have a great background as far as what you did after the military, going into a think tank, and then having your own ad agency, and then even as a race car driver. Give us a little insight into that journey, that in between the military to Venture X.
Sure. So being in the military and flying the particular type of plane that I flew, I did a lot of reconnaissance and surveillance work. And so that did get me into the intelligence arena. And so I did do a lot of things in the intelligence arena. So the think tank that I worked at was basically a classified think tank. So the things that they do were classified, working in the military and government area and that type of thing. But it was great to work with people that had Fulbright scholars and Rhodes scholars, and everyone had a PhD and lots of supercomputers. So being in that type of environment was really very interesting and very educational for me, and it was just a lot of fun. And that took me from there. I went deeper into the intelligence arena, and so there were times that I was the one who was briefing the director of the CIA on the things that he didn't know. So having left that, but with my background, then I did go into some of the government contracting arena and that type of thing, working with guys like Price Waterhouse. And from there, got into my own IT firm with some other partners. We did well. We had a exit there by getting acquired by another company. From there, went in and started a advertising agency because there were conflicts of interest with me opening another IT firm, and you can't compete. So went off and did advertising and did that very well. We had a lot of national Fortune 500 clients. We worked with Dell and AMD and Intuit and GE, so had a lot of great clients that we worked with. And then basically sold out to some partners there. During this time, I've always sort of enjoyed speed. So when I had been stationed in Jacksonville, Florida, and was flying out of Jacksonville, Florida, the factory Porsche race team was based in Jacksonville, Florida. It was with Brumos Racing. So I basically went there, learned how to drive with some of their pro drivers, and helped crew on their team, and developed this new sport and skill, and did that for a number of years. So when I left the advertising agency, I had been racing for a number of years, and we started a race sanctioning body. So I actually put on races all over North America. And in doing that, we had a lot of people who were very interested in Dodge Vipers and that type of thing. And so I was able to communicate with the folks at Dodge, and we got them to produce, I guess, 50 race Vipers for us. And we had a spec series, and we had a television show for 3 years called Dodge Viper Cup. So we put on these races, and then, our sort of gimmick was that we would put on these races, but we'd invite a guest driver. So anybody from Corey Hart to Goldberg, and we'd have these guys who would sort of come in, and then we would sort of teach them the basics of racing and that sort of stuff over a week or two, and then bring them into a race. And so that made things interesting because there were people love to see accidents. I mean, we hate accidents, but that things would happen. So having that extra little piece would sometimes make it interesting. So we did that for about 3 years. We ended up selling that, and I just raced professionally myself for a number of years with everyone from Grand Am to the American Le Mans Series to the International Motorsports Association, mostly in prototypes. I've raced everything from Vipers and Porsches to F3 cars to all different types of prototypes, with the last several years having been in Le Mans prototypes.
What a great diverse background you have. Now let's take it the rest of the way. So take us from Jim the race car driver to the investment in co-working and opening up your own Venture X.
Sure. I think one of the things that I think I've learned in having worked at the think tank was you always need to be looking towards the future. You always have to be looking for what's next, what's the trends, where can you get on the train at the beginning of the track as opposed to when it's about to end. And looking around, there were a number of things that I wanted to do, I wanted a place where there was a lot of leverage. I wanted to have a business to business type of operation. And looking at doing some trend analysis, I could see the issues that were going on in the marketplace today, in office space, and how that could be a very large challenge. People get locked into these long-term leases. It's very expensive to fill out the space and to build out the space. As contracts change or your business climate changes, you can either contract or expand, but you're locked into the same space. So I said, there's got to be a better way. And as looking around, we found co-working, and then we found Venture X, and it just seemed to make a lot of sense as to, here's a business that there's going to be a growing need for in the future. And so we're already seeing a lot of interest in, we're not even open, and people are finding our phone number and calling us anyway. And, the phone number is not published right now. So it's very interesting. People are really looking for spaces, and I think they've more and more they're coming to understand that here's an opportunity for them to have the flexibility of growing their business, shrinking their business. If they lose a contract and that type of thing, they can come in, and instead of having to have all of that space that you have to have in your own space, like space for receptionists, space for your conference rooms, space for your printer, space for coffee, all of those types of things you can't monetize. Here's a place where you can go, gee, I'll just buy this office, which by the way comes fully furnished, and all I can do is walk in with my laptop. I can go to work immediately, and all of those other amenities are there for me. So it makes it very cost effective and very quick for somebody to get back into business, or to have a large company say, hey, I want a space that I have lots of opportunities for flexibility, hence flexible lease space.
Yeah, no, great. Now, tell us why San Antonio? Why you specifically wanted to open up this business in San Antonio, and why do you think San Antonio is a great market for co-working space?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. I was originally born here in San Antonio, so I grew up here in San Antonio. I went to high school here. I did my undergraduate college work at Trinity University, which is here in San Antonio. So love the city, love the flavor, love the culture. People don't realize that it's the 7th largest city in the country. So by population, it's larger than Dallas, it's larger than Austin. So people are always surprised when I tell them it's actually the 7th largest city in the country. And what we find is that a lot of other people have sort of forgotten that it's that large, and that there's a lot of business that's going on here. And, there's a real need. There's a dearth of actual co-working spaces here in the community. So one, we saw a large opportunity to come in. The other reason is we really wanted to be back here in home. We've got family here and those type of things. We've got a lot of community ties here in the community. One of the things that we really want to do is, as we come back, is give back to our community. So when I look at the high school that I graduated, for example, it's in a very underserved area, doesn't have a lot of resources and those type of things. So we're very, very interested in working with them, bringing in kids to help mentor, trying to give them some success tips and those types of things. We've been talking to some of our members that are going to be coming on board, and they're very interested in helping with that particular aspect of our particular co-working community. So we think that's going to be a lot of fun. And then as they graduate their mentorship and stuff, we'll have some scholarships available for some of these kids as well. And not only are we looking for the people who've been excelling academically, but there are lots of great kids who may not want to say that college is their best way forward. So we'll look at having some scholarships for guys and gals that want to go into HVAC, or go to be an electrician, or any of those types of trade schools that exist, but there's not a lot of scholarships for those kids as well. So, but we want to take care of those guys as well.
That's huge, Jim. Being able to be born in a community and be born and raised in that community, go through grade school in that community, and then leave, go into the military, and then travel the world, but then come back and then invest in that community and even to the schools that you went to, and try to provide additional opportunities for the local people there. That's huge, and that's very admirable.
Well, thank you very much. But I think it's it's really important, if you've had some success in your life, to it. What do you do with that success? How do you become relevant? How do you stay relevant? And for me, it's a very personal thing, but it's also it may be a little bit selfish. I really enjoy helping these kids. I really enjoy helping the community. I really enjoy being able to see their success and share in their success, just a teeny little bit. And that's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. And to put it in maybe a Navy term, what's that saying? The rising tide lifts all boats.
Lifts all boats. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yes.
so yeah, no, you're giving back to the community, and that's a lot of people forget. That's half of what we do with opening up these flexible term office spaces, these co-working communities, is that community aspect. Tell us a little bit, give us an update on when your space is going to be open. And then I'd also love to hear some of the other unique selling points. You're going to have a beautiful space. So tell us a little bit about what excites you about your new space and some of those unique selling points.
Well, thank you, Ruben. I think we're going to have, the best space in San Antonio. I think we're going to have one of the premier spaces in the United States, actually, because we actually are trying to build in a lot of things that will be features that, as sort of the basis of what we're doing, that aren't in a lot of the other co-working spaces. So with my IT background, I was very interested in looking at what type of IT infrastructure we have. So we've done a number of things. I was very worried about security. So we're going to have the same type of firewalls that the Federal Reserve has. We've really upgraded our technology. We have a 10 gig backbone, so we have a lot of growth availability. If somebody comes to us and they need a dedicated gig of internet, we're able to provide that to them. So we've done that. When we look at our conference rooms, we've really upgraded those, so they're state of the art. They'll have smart boards in there as well as your typical whiteboards. So all of the notes that you're taking can actually be downloaded. You don't have to take pictures anymore of your whiteboard. It's a great space in terms of just some of its physical attributes. There's a very large, fully stocked gym here that we have on site. So we have access to that. In Texas, it gets a little balmy in the middle of the summer. So we've got covered parking that's free for our members. And I think we've got one of the largest spaces. We've got about 34,500 square feet. So I think that's the largest co-working space that Venture X has built to date, until our next one. And so we'll be looking forward to that. But the thing that I think is really going to attract a lot of people is that I have 18-mile unobstructed views of the surrounding countryside. So you can look out in one direction and see beautiful Texas Hill Country. The other way, you can look at beautiful San Antonio skyline. So it's a lovely space for people that will be able to actually take care of you, and you have lots of amenities that you may not find anyplace else.
Exciting stuff, Jim. And when are you set to open?
Great. We're going to have some of the space available to open November 1st. We'll look at the full opening in December 1st. So we have some of the glass. Most of our glass is, as of today, actually bobbing off the port of Houston, waiting to be delivered. So our glass, a lot of our glass walls and our glass doors are literally came over from a slow boat. So they're hopefully going to be offloaded in the next week. And a week or so later, we'll actually start seeing those walls come up. But everything else is ready for them.
Awesome. And how can everyone get in touch with you to come see the space in person and come tour?
Well, there's a couple of ways. One, you can call us. That's always easy. And our phone number is 210-957-1053. You can email me, jim.garrett@venturex.com. You can go to our website, of course, the venturex.com website, and look for San Antonio Northwest. We'll be in the Northwest Center, which is a lovely building. It's actually at the intersection of two highways. So in San Antonio, everybody knows where 410 and I-10 intersect. So it's two main highways here in San Antonio. So it's very convenient for everybody.
Awesome. Well, I think I could speak for everyone watching. This has been an amazing conversation with you, Jim. I really appreciate getting to know you better, and we thank you for your service, and we look forward to supporting your new Venture X location as it opens in San Antonio.
Well, thank you very much, Ruben, and it was my honor to serve our country, and it's one of those things that we all serve in some way in our community. We all serve in some way our fellow man. So it was great to be able to serve our country as well.
Venture X is a locally owned and globally connected portfolio of co-working spaces providing businesses with on-demand office space and services to run their company. To book a tour, visit www.venturex.com. When you need a space for your next business, X marks the spot.